Hi, I'm just here doing the check over on your Yamaha Wolverine. I'm just going to go through the check over items that I have completed, and we'll try to get through this video quickly as I can for you. Overall, the bike is in pretty good shape. I mean, it should be. It's a 2020. It does have a few little issues that do need some attention. Let's see. So, engine oil and oil filter, front and rear diff fluids. I'll complete those when you bring it back for your for the rest of the service. Your air filter, I popped that out of your air box. It's in definite need of being cleaned. Just so you know, these air filters are supposed to be cleaned about every 500 kilometers. I mean, of course, it depends on in the conditions that you're driving in. But for sure, what I would get in the habit of, if every couple of rides is like 500 kilometers for you, then each time you're finished those couple of rides, pull that air filter out and just get an idea what kind of shape it's in to see if it needs to be cleaned or not. You also have a secondary air filter that is down on the bottom of your air box. That guy is due to be changed at around 4,000 or 5,000 kilometers. You're at 3,500. So based on your driving, you can decide when you would like to have that air filter changed. This guy here, when you return, I'll take him off the carrier, and I'll clean it in nice hot soapy water and let it dry overnight, and then re-oil it for you so it's all nice and clean and ready for the rest of the season, because for sure you want to make sure that your engine is nice and healthy. Let's see. I checked your coolant in the radiator. It was up to the top. Your reservoir bottle is between the low and the full lines, which is about where I'd like to see it, because your level does vary depending on the temperature and stuff of your bike. I did notice that there's a stick stuck down in there by your radiator, so I'm going to pull that out just to make sure it's not going to get in there and damage your fins or anything like that. I don't know if it has yet. We're going to hope it hasn't. I'd also mentioned to you that it's hard to get a good shot in here. Maybe I can go in this way. Yeah, you can sort of see it. So if you can see the debris in your radiator fins, I would just encourage you that after you ride the bike and after it's completely cooled down, just take a regular garden hose and spray those fins out just to keep the mud and stuff cleaned out of them. It's easier to do it when the mud is still wet as opposed to, or still new. I shouldn't say it'll be wet because the radiator will dry it, but it's just easier to do it when you first let the bike cool off after after a long ride. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. Anyway, that'll make it so that you have all the cooling capacity that you can get from the radiator. You don't lose any from some of the surface area being plugged up with mud and dirt. Never use a high pressure hose. They're aluminum fins. They bend really easy. Just a regular garden hose. Spray it out as best you can. Let's see. I checked all your lights, so your high and your low beam, tail lights, brake lights. They all work. There's no issues with the lights themselves. I did notice that your brake pedal travel, I don't have to go in and show you, but your brake pedal travel is a bit more than it should be before the brake lights come on. So when you come back, I'll make the little adjustment to the switch. I'll also make an adjustment for your parking brake, because I noticed that it pulls just maybe a little bit further than it should. Let's see. For your cooling system, as far as the fan operating, when I finished here today, I'll push the bike outside or drive it outside. And I'm just going to run it until it gets up to operating temperature, and all I want to see is that the cooling fan is cycling the way it should be, so it cycles on and cycles off. So that tells me your cooling system is working without the bike overheating or anything like that. So I'll let you know on that part when you pick it up later today. The battery I have not load tested yet. I like to disconnect them when I do a load test on them, and you have quite a few things that are hooked up there. I guess I have it covered with the air filter cover at the moment, but there's quite a few accessory things, so we'll leave that until when you come back. Let's see. For your steering in the front end, you will need new tie rod ends fairly soon. Both sides, they're starting to get some play in them, so you might hear it when I move it. So all that is the noise in the ball and socket joint where it's starting to get a little bit of wear in them. So that's something there that you might want to address before you get too far into the season. So we can do that when you come back too as well if you like. Let's see. No other issues with your steering. I also checked your steering rack boots to make sure there was no cracks or anything like that in them. I'm just going to change the zoom up here for you a little bit. Front brake pads, you still have lots of wear on those, so there's no issue for them. I'll just recheck them your next service. Your back brake pads, so they're a little bit different. You need to have a new set of those installed. And you can see, since you've seen the front brake pad, you know that we're quite a bit different, and it's hard to see with all the dirt. And I could actually show you easier on the other wheel, but that's a different issue at the moment. Anyway, those need to be replaced, so they're almost down. They're well down to the service limit, so they should be replaced when you come back. I'll also mention to you that if you keep when you high pressure your bike, if that's what you're using to clean it off, if you keep the mud and stuff cleaned out of your brake calipers, you'll find that you'll get your brake pads will sometimes last a little bit longer, because I've known that sometimes that they'll get all brake pad calipers will get caked up with mud, and then they don't tend to travel on the sliders on the pins the way they should. And sometimes I've seen them come in and the brake pad on the outer side of the disc will be in really good shape, and the one on the other side will be almost wore down to the metal backer because the caliper couldn't travel and it was sticking onto the brake disc. So it's always a good idea to keep them cleaned up as best you can. You also have pads that need to be replaced on this wheel, but I was not able to show that to you for the video because you have 1, 2, 3 special lug nuts, lock nuts for on this rear wheel, and I could not find the adapter to be able to take those off in your dash. Usually people carry them with them. Strangely enough, they're all on this wheel. None of the other wheels have a lock nut on them, so I'm not sure what happened there. But anyway, brake fluid, it's normal for that to be down in the reservoir because you're actually not supposed to add fluid level. You're only supposed to change the fluid every 2 to 4 years. The fluid level is a good indication of how much wear you have. So yours is sort of at a tilt. So you can see that it's almost down to half. So that gives you an idea of, you get the pad wear in the back and you get whatever wear you have here in the front. Anyway, let's see. Your tires, the tread's in great shape. Both back tires were quite low on air. That one was at about 7.5 pounds. This one was at around 11.5. The spec that I have for this bike is 20 to 22 in the rear and 12 to 14 in the front. So I set them 14 in the front and 22 in the rear for right now. But what I would think we should do is when you bring it back, we'll check that tire pressure again and see if it's gone down quite a bit. Like if you've lost 5 or 6 pounds or something like that, then you might have a slow leak around one of the wheel beads, or maybe you've picked up some thorns out when you're out in a ride, because I know I've seen tires sometimes they'll come in with 4 or 5 holes all in one spot because somebody got into a thorn patch and punctured them. I don't know if these tires would do that or not, but I've seen that happen before. Let's see. Tire condition. So I've set them to spec. I think that's pretty much it. So we've got through everything. Anything else on the list? You do need a bit of an adjustment to your parking brake cable and your brake pedal, as I said. But other than that, and the battery load test, and running the bike up to temp, which I'll do before it leaves. All the other items we can complete at the same time when you bring it back for your brake pads and your tie rod ends if you want to do them, and cleaning your air filter and whatnot. Anyway, if you have any questions, then please let me know, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon. Thanks, and have a great morning.